there is a massive storyline that started to develop throughout the evening, and Cowboys Twitter started to talk about it, and you and I spoke a little bit earlier, and at the time, I don't know that either of us expected it to really get the legs that it now has, but the Dallas Morning News has now reported that Cowboys cornerback Kelvin Joseph is going to be interviewed by Dallas police in connection with a murder last month in East Dallas. And what more can you share with us from what information you've been able to obtain regarding the situation?
So, yeah, this is a case of a 20-year-old man, Cameron Ray, who was murdered, as you said, last month at a bar, a spot on Greenville. And the police really had no leads on this. They had some security cam footage that seemed to show this group of men that had an altercation with Cameron Ray and his friends outside of this bar. And then a few moments later, that same group is believed to have shot at him and killed him. And so they had some security camera footage, but they weren't totally sure who was involved, and they didn't have a lot of great leads. And so they went and partnered up with KDFW-TV, Fox 4 here locally in Dallas, on Dallas police reaching out and just kind of telling the story and sharing the camera footage and saying, hey, if you guys know who this is, if this man looks familiar, please contact Dallas police. And that was on Wednesday, so this was yesterday. And it didn't take long before people kind of started to spot and go, that looks a lot like Kelvin Joseph on the security camera footage. And when you look at it, it very much does appear to be his, the vibe.
Certainly does.
Chain around his neck. I've seen that chain up close before. It looks a hell of a lot like it. It looks as if his cameraman is there with him, his traveling videographer that brings with him. It appears that he is with him, and he's on this camera footage. And so that's what's led up now to Dallas police having an interest in talking to Kelvin Joseph. And I think that the fact that Dallas police was looking for leads on Wednesday and Thursday, things kind of started churning up and started gaining some momentum. My sense of it is from talking to people with the Cowboys and on the outside, on the periphery and everything else, I don't think the Cowboys knew about this until all of us knew about it. I think they found out about this tonight. And I think that they're kind of in a state of shock right now as to how to proceed. I think they 100% believe what is in the Dallas Morning News story, which is they don't believe Kelvin Joseph is the shooter. Mm-hmm. But at the very least, Kelvin Joseph is around a murder. He is in the vicinity and is a person that Dallas police want to talk to in regards to a murder, and that's bad. That's unequivocally bad news. And when you see if the man they believe is Kelvin Joseph on the security camera footage at the bar is the same man that's wearing the hoodie that is involved in the altercation, at the very least, Kelvin Joseph is definitively on camera getting into a fight in Dallas. And that's the very best possible news here, is that we say Kelvin Joseph got into a brawl outside of a bar at 2 a.m. Sure. That's the best possible news here, and it could get much worse depending on what goes on with this Dallas police investigation.
Just a terrible, a terrible off season. Gets potentially a heck of a lot worse, and at the very least, slightly worse. So, I guess, is it going to be like as early as tomorrow? Kelvin Joseph will be interacting with police officers.
We don't. That is not clear at this moment. I would guess that'd be as if they haven't reached out tonight, then I would guess it's something that would take place tomorrow. But like I said, I think the Cowboys they hate being surprised. Like I mean, a lot of times when things pop up, stories get out. It's stuff that they've known about for a couple days, stuff that they've had time to work out. I think they hate realizing that they found out about something at the same time that Cowboys fan 632 on Twitter found out about it. That's not good to them. But
is this a situation, Bobby, where, I mean, look, what's happening here is a tragedy. Somebody lost their life first and foremost, but from a Cowboy standpoint, as you're speaking about just finding out about that tonight, is this a situation where in the history, because this isn't the first time they've had to deal with situations with their players being involved in altercations, whether it's been in bar fights or situations like this before, do they prefer their players to just come to them and say, hey, this happened, so that they can get ahead of it?
I think so, and I think they've had that happen before. I don't think they are necessarily like, hey, come to us, but, I don't think it's like,
right.
Come to us before the police, or but I mean, I think whenever something's gone on, they'd like for you to just disclose that something's happened so that they can, get to figuring things out and sorting things out. Now, I think the part of this conversation that's going to need to take place over the next few days is in regards to Kelvin Joseph and who he was leading up to when the Cowboys picked him and who he's been since the Cowboys picked him. And that's going to be included as context, I think, in this story itself. Because, look, when he was coming out of college, he left LSU, left his very loose term. If we're being direct and cutting through the BS and, the terminology that they want to use for it, he was kicked out of LSU. Okay? And then he gets to Kentucky, and he declared for the draft, but realistically, Kentucky was ready to kick him out too. They were tired of him, and there were a lot of red flags about Kelvin Joseph coming out of the draft. And he got here, and there were a lot of people who were, calling for him to get more playing time last year, and the fan base wanted to see him more.
I was one of them.
Kelvin Joseph was a handful for them last year. It was a growing experience. It was not a easy season, I think, behind closed doors for the Cowboys with Kelvin Joseph. And so this is not just like the first thing for them, I don't think. This is something that's been going on. They knew about it coming out of school. And then his first year here, I think they had growing pains with him. And not I think. I know they had growing pains, and I know they had some moments of, disciplinary issues and correction and maturity issues. And so now that's a big leap from this is a guy with maturity issues and this is a guy who sometimes a knucklehead to murder charges. That's a completely different thing. Or wanting to be interviewed about murder, a murder investigation. That's a big leap. But I think that it's important when this is being discussed and we're looking at this is not totally something that, it's another thing on top of what have already been a lot of red flags for Kelvin Joseph from his college days up through his first NFL season.
I'm curious, Bobby, when you say red flags with the team last year, is that from direct interactions like with him and coaches and bad attitude stuff? Is that stuff from him inside the facility, outside the facility? And then just of note, it does seem like he's kind of scrubbed a lot of his social media, like Instagram and stuff like that, from its photos and things, which doesn't necessarily bode overly well when a situation like this drops on you and now you're deleting things off your Instagram.
Yeah, I think a lot of what they dealt with last year, addressing the first part of the question, a lot of what they dealt with last year was just maturity stuff and stuff inside the building and how to be a pro and how to conduct yourself. And I don't think it's like a whole lot of, off the field sort of trouble. It was more just, growing pains of trying to break in the new guy and a guy who I think was frustrated and having a lot of, personal conflicts with how the season was playing out and how his role was playing out. And so, I think that's more what they were dealing with. But certainly, I mean, he also had his off the field issues, like we say, when he was at Kentucky and LSU. So this is nothing, off the field issues themselves are nothing new for Kelvin Joseph. And then the social media scrub. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a little bit of conjecture, and I mean, we can kind of connect dots, but I mean, it certainly doesn't look great given the timing of everything else, especially for a guy that's honestly as brand aware as he is. You wouldn't necessarily think a guy as brand intensive as him would go, well, let me just scrub off my Instagram and my social media profile.
There's a reason for that, no doubt. Talking with Bobby Belt here via the Diamond Factory Hotline on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan with the Nosebleed Seats. And in case you're just now joining us, just to recap, we are discussing with our Cowboys insider, Bobby, about the developing story about Cowboys cornerback Kelvin Joseph, and the story that is now being reported by the Dallas Morning News. The Dallas police want to interview the Cowboys corner that is in connection with a murder last month in Old East Dallas that multiple sources with knowledge of the investigation have now told the Dallas Morning News that Kelvin Joseph was involved in a disturbance from mid-March outside a bar in Greenville. And the same night, a man, Cameron Ray, at the age of 20, was fatally shot there, according to multiple sources. Our buddy DJ Rocket, a big-time bleeder, said that it was right in front of the OT Tavern, where he DJs very, very often. Now, from a Cowboy standpoint here, Bobby, obviously this is an evolving situation. We'll see how this unfolds, but just 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, does this now make corner more of a pressing need if Kelvin Joseph is dealing with, potentially this and is unable to be a part of the football team in the future?
Maybe it makes it easier for you to take, if there's a really great value at corner staring you in the face at the second round or something like that. Maybe it makes it easier for you to go ahead and make that move. I don't think it shoots up the priority list totally, just because you already have three, starting caliber corners here, and Kelvin Joseph wasn't the only top 100 corner you had last year. You also went and got Nashawn Wright, and so I think that they're in a solid position, and aren't necessarily pressed if things go sideways with Kelvin Joseph. But yeah, Kelvin Joseph is part of their future plans, and so I think that if you've got a corner slides down to you at 24 that you weren't expecting, or if a corner is like the best value at 56, maybe it just makes it easier for you to say, all right, let's go ahead. This is best pick available, and we're not totally sure about our corner's future. So, that's something that certainly is possible. And again, I think that's something that they would have still considered, because I think last year, like I said, was a really tough first year for Kelvin Joseph. On the field and in the locker room. And I think that they just, I think they already had some concerns about how he projected after his first year.
Well, look, maybe they just go ahead and they cut him. I wouldn't be surprised, if this ends up, the Cowboys do their own investigation, which I'm sure that they will. And, with everything that you've already said and just knowing the issues with the player, and they deem him, hey, this isn't worth it. We're just going to go ahead and cut ties here. So, we'll see what happens moving forward with Kelvin Joseph. Bobby, thank you so much for staying up late night with us. Always enjoy getting to visit with you, and I'm sure you'll be making the rounds with all the shows tomorrow, bud.
I love you all.